Corpbiz.
Hello friends, a very warm welcome to all of you. In this video, I will talk about Dual-Use NOC which is being issued by CDSCO. This simple definition of dual use is drugs that can be utilized in the field of pharmaceuticals as well as in other areas of industries such as textile industry, chemical industry, food and packaging industry, etc. For the purpose of importing drugs and for the dual usage of those drugs which can be used as a source of raw material for the purpose of fabrication of other drugs, it is mandatory to obtain permission from CDSCO Zonal Office. Now let's understand firstly what is CDSCO all about. CDSCO stands for Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, which is a government national drug authority that is dedicated towards the distribution and handling of organizations on behalf of the central government that falls under the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 and Rules 1945. This organization has 6 zonal offices which have 4 sub-zonal offices, which further has 13 port offices and 7 laboratories, all under CDSCO's control. The essential responsibility of CDSCO is regulation over the importation of various drugs, authorization of new drugs, clinical trials, conduct meetings for DCC, which stands for Drugs Consultative Committee, and DTAB, which stands for Drugs Technical Advisory Board, and over various licensing authentication by enacting as a central license approving authority. Now the question arises, why is dual use NOC needed? There are a number of drugs available in the market that are not used in pharmaceuticals but instead used in manufacturing industries such as the textile industry, chemical industry, food and packaging industry, etc., or used as a source of raw material for the purpose of fabrication of other drugs. For such drugs that are used for the purpose of dual use and for the importation of the drugs, NOC, which stands for No Objection Certificate, is mandatory. Dual use NOC is required usually by the producers for the usage of drugs in bulk quantity. NOC for the purpose of dual use, which is not to be used for medicinal purposes, shall be issued by the Deputy Drugs Controller of India for the importers upon submission of the application and completing the required legal undertakings. The importer is then required to administer the provided NOC to either Assistant Drug Controller or the technical officer present at the required port office for the clearance of such goods. The list of mentioned in Schedule D from Chapter 3 of Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 and Rules of 1945 is an exemption accordance with the conditions specified in the schedule. Although the authorization of NOC solely relies upon the Deputy Drug Controller of India for any of the required zonal office. Let's have a look over the requirement list of document for the dual use NOC application. The required list of document is needed for the dual use application process are as follows. The firstly, covering letter, then bills of either invoice or entry or intent or purchase order or sales contract along with analysis certification of all importing packages, copy of high C sale agreement if any, legal undertaking with attached ₹100 stamp paper with mandatory notarization that is to be followed according to 3.1 of Annexure 1 in case of importation of drugs by the actual user, according to 3.2 point of Annexure 2 in case of importation of drugs by the trader. Next, if the drugs being imported are already registered with CDSCO, then information regarding the details shall be enclosed. Declaration is required regarding the drugs will not be used for the pharmaceutical or any other medical purpose. Submission of required document, that is permission for the respective department of the following situation mentioned that shall justify the purpose of dual use, such as supplement for animal feeding, as food supplements, the purpose of fabrication of drugs from one drug to another along with the structural outline of the production process, for the purpose of cosmetic use, in any other industry except the pharmaceutical industry or medical industry. Then, detailed information on the previously permitted quantity of drugs. Now, let's see the due diligence which is required. The producers that require dual use NOC are required to perform due diligence before submitting the application for importation of required drugs. The upcoming mentioned points are necessary for successful due diligence. The drugs required for importation have to be already registered. The drugs to be imported have to be approved via the laws of country, whether it's a single drug or a combination of multiple drugs. Check upon the international status of the drugs. For example, multivitamins are not recognized as drugs. Hence, the laws applicable to their import and export are different. In the end, let's see the necessary facts required for filing of NOC for dual use. Before submission of the application, the applicant need to make sure that the application is complete with no errors. The clearance needed for dual use is advisable to be made by the manufacturer or the agent authorized before the technical review stage for the consideration process, before the beginning of import process to avoid penalization, preferably before 2 months of applying. The required documents such as bills, invoices, etc. should clearly state the purpose of the intention of usage. Master formula record has to be attested duly by the licensing authority, which is mandatory for the purpose of import application. Importation of other drugs required for purifying or sterilizing of drugs being imported shall not be considered under dual use NOC. The permission for importing drugs by the actual user is limited to 1 year. In the event that an application is made to the port official, it will be forwarded with the comment to zonal head of CDSCO for review and consideration, ideally via email or fax. The NOC from zonal head through email or fax will be educated for discharge. The zonal officer maintains all required information in such cases. That's it in this video. For more videos, like and subscribe our channel. Thank you.